We previously introduced the idea of orthogonal and orthonormal sets in inner product spaces. Link in the description to that video. Today, we're going to go over orthogonal and orthonormal bases and how we can express a vector in an inner product space as a linear combination of orthogonal basis vectors. This video has chapters, so you can skip around as you please. We'll begin with a theorem that will be important to our use of these sets as bases for inner product spaces, but let's just quickly review the definitions. We say that a set of vectors in an inner product space is an orthogonal set if each pair of distinct vectors in the set is orthogonal, so each inner product would be 0. Now, if each vector in an orthogonal set has norm 1, so it's a unit vector, then we say that the set is an orthonormal set. Now, hopefully you recall from when we previously discussed bases for vector spaces that the vectors in a basis have to be linearly independent. That brings us to this important theorem. If S is an orthogonal set of non-zero vectors in an inner product space, then S is linearly independent. So if we have an orthogonal set, we already know it's linearly independent. Obviously, this would apply to orthonormal sets as well, since those are orthogonal also. Now let's prove the theorem. We're going to assume that this arbitrary linear combination of the vectors from the orthogonal set S is equal to 0. As we've done before many times, in order to show that this set is linearly independent, we need to show that the only way a linear combination of the vectors can be 0 is if all of those coefficients are 0. Now, if this linear combination equals 0, we can say that for each vector vi in the set S, this inner product is equal to 0. This is the inner product of that linear combination with the arbitrary vector vi from the orthogonal set. On the left, again, is the linear combination. On the right is an arbitrary vector vi from the orthogonal set. Now, if we're assuming that this linear combination is equal to 0, then this on the left is 0, and we know that the inner product of the 0 vector with any other vector is equal to 0. But then we can split this inner product up across the addition. We can take each term from the linear combination and pair it with vi in its own inner product. That is, we can write it like this. K1 times the inner product of V1 with Vi, that's taking this term, and plus K2 times the inner product of V2 with Vi, that's that term, and so on, all the way up through Kn times the inner product of Vn with Vi. Of course, since this inner product was equal to 0, this equal inner product, which we've split up by additivity, is also equal to 0. However, we know that each of these inner products, Vj, Vi, so long as j is not equal to I, each of those inner products have to be 0, because Vj and Vi would be distinct vectors from this orthogonal set. So by definition, their inner product would be 0. Keep in mind again that Vi is arbitrary, but it is fixed. So each of these inner products, again, has to be 0, except the one where Vi is having an inner product with itself. So since all of those other inner products of distinct vectors are 0, we could rewrite this expression on the left simply as Ki times the inner product of Vi with Vi. This is the only inner product which is not equal to 0. We know it's not equal to 0 because Vi is not the 0 vector, and the inner product of a vector with itself is the square of its magnitude. So certainly this inner product is not equal to 0. However, we do know that Ki times this inner product is 0. So, since this inner product isn't 0, it must be that that coefficient Ki is equal to 0. But again, I here, and Vi, is arbitrary. It's just some vector from this orthogonal set. Hence, we could apply this same argument to every vector from S, and thus conclude that every coefficient in this linear combination, all of those k's, is equal to 0. Hence, the only solution to this equation is the trivial solution. The only way to combine the vectors from an orthogonal set in such a way that they cancel out is to just multiply them all by 0. And so, indeed, S is linearly independent. So that theorem will be useful in our construction of orthogonal and orthonormal bases, but now let's just take a look at the definition and a few examples of orthogonal and orthonormal bases. In an inner product space, a basis consisting of orthonormal vectors is called an orthonormal basis. No surprise there. A basis of orthogonal vectors is called an orthogonal basis. And from our previous theorem, if we have an orthogonal set or an orthonormal set that spans the inner product space, then it's automatically a basis, because we already know that such sets are linearly independent. Here's a familiar example of an orthonormal basis, the standard basis vectors for Euclidean n-space. In this space, the inner product is the dot product, and you can quickly look at these n vectors and see how the dot product of any distinct pair of them would be 0. Furthermore, since each of these vectors in our n has components that are all 0, except for one component, which is 1, it's easy to see that they are all unit vectors, and so this is an orthonormal basis for Euclidean n-space. Here's an orthonormal basis for Pn with the standard inner product. Pn is the inner product space of polynomials of degree at most n, where the standard inner product of two polynomials is to add the products of their corresponding coefficients. It's easy to see that this set of vectors spans Pn, since any polynomial of degree at least n is, by definition, a linear combination of terms that look just like that. But it's also pretty easy to see that the inner product of any two distinct vectors from this space is equal to 0, and hence they are orthogonal. For example, the inner product of x with x squared is defined to be the sum of the products of the coefficients of their corresponding terms. So for example, we would have to take 1, the coefficient of the linear term of this vector, and multiply it by 0, the coefficient of the linear term of x squared. X squared has 0 x's, so that's multiplication by 0. Then we would have to add 1, the coefficient of the x squared term in that polynomial, multiplied by 0, the coefficient of the x squared term in this polynomial. Clearly, that's equal to 0, and a similar computation would show this is true for any pair of distinct vectors from this set. Hence, it is an orthogonal set and an orthogonal basis. It's also an orthonormal basis. The inner product of any one of these vectors with itself would just be the square of its coefficient, so 1 times 1, and then the square root of that would be 1. And so they are all unit vectors in this inner product space. Here's an example of a non-standard orthonormal basis for R cubed with the Euclidean inner product. So this is the familiar Euclidean 3 space with the dot product. However, this is a less familiar basis. It's pretty easy to see that these vectors are all orthogonal to each other, and indeed they are unit vectors. For example, the norm of this first vector would be the square root of this term squared plus this term squared. That would end up being 1/2 plus 1/2. We're ignoring 0, of course, because it's just 0. And so its norm would be the square root of 1, which is 1. And indeed, a similar computation would show those two vectors are unit vectors, and so indeed this is an orthonormal basis. Now, if we have an orthonormal basis for an inner product space, how do we write an arbitrary vector from that space as a linear combination of those orthonormal basis vectors? Or how do we write the coordinate vector relative to that orthonormal basis? Well, we could do it the old-fashioned way. We could write a vector u as a linear combination of any basis vectors by just solving this equation. We could turn it into a system of equations and use Gauss-Jordan elimination in order to solve for those coefficients, which would be the coordinates of u relative to the basis s. But for orthogonal and orthonormal bases, there's actually an easier way. If the basis s is orthogonal or orthonormal, we can actually use inner products to find the coefficients that let us express an arbitrary vector in terms of the basis vectors. Here's the theorem, and we will prove it after reading. If S is an orthogonal basis for an inner product space V, and if U is an arbitrary vector from that space, then we can write U as a linear combination of the orthogonal basis vectors like this. v1 gets multiplied by the inner product of u with v1 divided by the square of the norm of v1. v2 gets multiplied by the inner product of u with v2 divided by the square of the norm of v2, and so on. Furthermore, if S happens to be an orthonormal basis, so all of its vectors have norm 1, all of these denominators would just be equal to 1, and so we have this result, that U is actually just the inner product of U with V1 times V1, plus the inner product of U with V2 times V2, and so on. Now for the proof. If we assume that S is an orthogonal basis for the inner product space V, then by definition of basis, we can write our arbitrary vector U as a linear combination of those orthogonal basis vectors, just like this. Each vector Vi has a coefficient Ci. Then, consider the inner product of U with an arbitrary basis vector Vi. We could write that like this. Here is U expressed as a linear combination of the basis vectors, so we've just rewritten it. And then on the right, we have Vi. Then, by the additivity property, we can split this inner product up across the addition. And so, we would have the inner product of C1V1 with Vi, but we can pull the scalar C1 out, plus the inner product of C2V2 with Vi, but we can pull the scalar C2 out, and so on, all the way up to the inner product of CnVn with I, but we can pull the scalar Cn out. Now, just as in our earlier proof, all of these inner products, V1 Vi, V2 Vi, and so on, all of them must be 0, except the inner product of Vi with itself, which is the square of its magnitude. We know all the other ones are 0, again, because they're inner products of distinct vectors from an orthogonal set. So they have to be orthogonal, which means their inner products have to be 0. Now remember, this Vi, this vector from the orthogonal set, was arbitrary. So this logic shows us that for each I, hence for each vector from the orthogonal set, the inner product of U with that vector can be written as just Ci times the inner product of Vi with Vi. Again, that's because all of these other terms would be 0. Now, the inner product of Vi with Vi is just the square of the magnitude of Vi, so this inner product is just Ci times the square of the magnitude of Vi. Therefore, dividing both sides of this equation by the square of the norm of Vi, we are able to solve for the coefficient Ci. Ci must equal the inner product of U with Vi divided by the square of the norm of Vi. And again, I here is arbitrary. This logic applies to every single coefficient. And as we said a few minutes ago, if S is an orthonormal basis, the square of the norms in the denominators of these coefficients will all be equal to 1. So the denominators can be ignored, and we have that each coefficient Ci is the inner product of U with Vi. So there's one more look at the theorem and the proof. So this tells us how we can write an arbitrary vector from an inner product space as a linear combination of orthogonal or orthonormal basis vectors. Hence, we can use this theorem to write the coordinate vector relative to an orthonormal basis. Stating the previous theorem in coordinate notation looks like this. The coordinate vector of U relative to the basis S, if S is an orthogonal basis, it looks like this. If S is an orthonormal basis, then the coordinate vector of U relative to S looks like this, with those denominators just gone. This certainly makes clear in some way how nice orthogonal and orthonormal bases can be. This is a much simpler procedure to find coordinate vectors than we have faced previously. Let's go through a quick example. We'll first consider these vectors, v1, v2, and v3, in the standard Euclidean space R cubed. The set containing these three vectors is in fact an orthonormal basis for R cubed, and these are the computations verifying that. The dot product of each pair of distinct vectors is equal to 0. It's also quite straightforward to calculate the norms of the vectors. They are all equal to 1. For example, the norm of v1 is the square root of the sum of the squares of its components. So under the square root, we would have 9 over 25 plus 16 over 25. That's 25 over 25, and so the norm is the square root of 1, or just 1. Similar computation shows that the other two vectors are unit vectors as well, so indeed these three vectors make up an orthonormal basis, and so we can apply our previous theorem to write any vector from R cubed as a linear combination of these orthonormal basis vectors. Suppose we want to write this vector u, 1, negative 4, 2, as a linear combination of the vectors in our orthonormal basis S. By our previous theorem, u is equal to the inner product of u with v1 times v1, plus the inner product of u with v2 times v2, plus the inner product of u with v3 times v3. The inner product in this space is just the dot product, so the computations are pretty straightforward. The inner product of u with v1, multiplying the corresponding components and adding, gives us negative 19/5. The inner product of u with v2, multiplying components and adding, gives us negative 8/5. And the inner product of u with v3, which again is a dot product, just gives us positive 2. And so this is how we can write u as a linear combination of those orthonormal basis vectors. We could then also take these coefficients to write the coordinate vector of u relative to this basis. The coordinate vector of u relative to the orthonormal basis S looks like that. The first component is the coefficient of v1. The second component is the coefficient of v2, and so on. So that's a look at orthogonal and orthonormal bases, some relevant theorems, and how we can write a vector as a linear combination of orthogonal or orthonormal basis vectors. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and be sure to check out my Linear Algebra course and Linear Algebra exercises playlists in the description. If you find my videos helpful, please consider supporting what I do by joining Wrath of Math as a channel member. You can get early and exclusive access to videos and extra practice, and if you join at the premium tier or above, you can access all of the lecture notes used in this course. Thanks for watching.
Stressed out, sweetie, I'm stressed out. Sounds like you've been stressed out. Tell me what you're stressed about. Stressed out, honey, I've been stressed out lately. Don't know what's what, don't know what I'm stressed about. Stressed out, sweetie, I'm stressed out. Sounds like you've been stressed out.